Video games! You know, I should really just buy a new copy of Bioshock Infinite, but instead every time I turn on my PS3, I'm like, maybe it'll work this time. And so I try to boot it up, doesn't work. And so what I finally did a few days ago, when I just really wanted to play a video game, but didn't want to get up and take a disc out of my PlayStation, is I just installed the original Bioshock, which comes with Bioshock Infinite. So I installed that off the disc, and I started playing that, just because, you know, I knew it was like a cult classic before anything else happened with Bioshock Infinite. I know Bioshock 2 isn't really canon, whatever, even though I had played Bioshock 2 a little bit a few years ago. Anyway, what I found interesting right off the bat is great opening. You know, you have that classic Lost style, like plane crash, what happened, blah, and you kind of have to figure it out as you go. And, you know, the city of Rapture is beautiful. I love the whole concept of that city. I love this kind of like very, you know, Ayn Rand experiment gone wrong in this world of like, oh, this is going to be all about the individual, and yes, you own the sweat off your brow, and that kind of thing. And then, you know, this is a society that's clearly gone horribly wrong. I will say, kind of similar to Bioshock Infinite, I wish there was a way to just experience this world and go through this world that wasn't such a violent first-person shooter kind of way, because it feels like something that could be an RPG or an MMO or just some kind of adventure game, like very lighthearted. Well, maybe not lighthearted, it could still be dark, but I wish I could go through the Bioshock Infinite city of Columbia and the Bioshock city of Rapture, underwater, in the sky, very dichotomous and awesome, and just explore it. That'd be great. Anyway, I've only played like an hour of the game, probably not even that much. Again, very creepy, very disturbing, interesting stuff. The gameplay is still fun. Again, naturally, I'm not a first-person shooter kind of player kind of guy, but still interesting. Again, the way that this kind of magical thing, like being able to shoot people up in the sky and then hit them down with a hammer, that's interesting from a gameplay mechanic perspective, so that's cool. I know nothing about it, so 3 stars with confidence of 1. I pulled out my old Metal Gear Solid box from the closet, which is full of like Metal Gear Solid magazines and old games and all sorts of stuff this weekend, and found the complete collection and Metal Gear Solid 4 in there, and decided, hey, I haven't played the complete collection in a while, let's pop that in. And I feel like I play Metal Gear Solid all the time, but turns out I haven't played any of the games since Metal Gear Solid 5 in a year and a half, which is kind of a long time for me. I pretty much feel like I'm playing these games, you know, every couple weeks or something like that. But I popped in Metal Gear Solid 3 to play a little bit of that. It's really interesting as I get older and how I play more video games and how I'm more invested in how narratives are told and, you know, gameplay mechanics and all these different things, how I approach these games that I have a lot of nostalgia for with different eyes. So Metal Gear Solid 3, of course, something really interesting thing about that is with the Subsistence version, which you get with the HD collection and all that, adds that camera where the camera can be able to move around the character, whereas before, Metal Gear Solid 3 followed the same camera as Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2, and also the old Metal Gear games from like the late 1980s, 1987, and I think 1991 was the second one, where it's just like a top-down kind of thing, and the camera's kind of locked, and it follows the character around, and that's all you get from that. Metal Gear Solid 3 was the first one, only in the Subsistence, like the special edition version, that started to allow you to move the camera around, which is a more modern thing, and of course every game since then allows you to have more control over the camera. That's kind of great. What I like about the game so much, besides the story, I do think it has one of the strongest stories of the franchises, and some people will laugh when I say this, but it's actually, in my opinion, the most straightforward. It's a very clear kind of James Bond parody, and the goal of the game is very clear. The betrayal of your mentor kind of drives the entire plot of the game, and it's very focused, and the gameplay is wonderful. I love all the stuff in the woods. I love the survival elements. I love catching food and healing and doing all the stuff with camo, and I think later games did a really nice job of cherry-picking what to keep from that and what to refine. And anyway, really fantastic game, especially since it was the second game to come out on the PS2, and that was really fun to just touch base with again. I only played it for like an hour. Then I moved on to Peace Walker. Peace Walker, of course, came out for the PSP. They re-released it for the HD collection on television. Well, that's kind of interesting. You know, they didn't upgrade it that much. I think they changed a few of the graphics to be more fitting for a much larger screen, PSP versus television. I think in terms of like character models, they made Snake a little bit more detailed, but besides that, the environments are still pretty simple. That being said, gameplay-wise, you know, I think I may have spent the most time in Peace Walker more than any other game because of the base building mechanic, and there's all these extra missions, and you're doing stuff to get more technologies and upgrade things and build your base and go on these outer op missions and build your own Metal Gear, and it has kind of like a Pokemon element to it, especially when you're recruiting soldiers, that I found really addictive, and I know that's going to be a big part of Metal Gear Solid 5, which is why I think I'm probably going to put in 200 plus hours to Metal Gear Solid 5 when all is said and done. But hey, that's that's why this video series is kind of interesting. Since I'm going to be having a baby, I think I'm going to be putting that much time into it, but maybe I won't, or maybe that 200 plus hours will take place over the course of my entire life, or when my kids turn 18 or something like that. But I really love this kind of Pokemon recruiting element, and I think it was so well done in Peace Walker. It's probably only going to be better in Metal Gear Solid 5, which is great. What's also cool about Peace Walker, I really like the bite-sized missions. I like the environment, everything going on in Costa Rica. I don't think the plotline is one of the strongest things. Like, I get the AI thing and the fact that, you know, Snake wants to know why the boss betrayed him, and there's this AI component that maybe can give him that answer. And, you know, the ending, my wife is sitting down to watch one of the end credit sequences, which to a layman just looks totally ridiculous. It just looks convoluted, and they're saying all these very dumb lines, and some of the lines are dumb because they're translated poorly from Japanese, and some of the lines are just dumb. And it's a fascinating thing because it's one of those things where, because Metal Gear is one of the few video game franchises out there that is really driven by the creative mind of a single person, you know, for those that think of auteurs, like, he is one of the few video game auteurs who is driving an entire series in so many ways. And if you know all the games and you're familiar with the very convoluted history within the games and all the different stuff going on and how all these characters have influenced each other from the 1940s to 2020, even the dumb lines, the dumb cutscenes, the dumb characters, they all have so much meaning, and it's interesting, and there's a complexity there and an intricacy that's really nice, but is totally impassable and totally leaves anyone not willing to dive that deep into it out of the conversation and out of the emotional interest and complexity of the whole thing. So anyway, kind of cool to jump back into those after a while. You know, I might jump into those a couple more times before MGS5 comes out. All the Metal Gear games, 5 stars, confidence of 5, bam!